Well, good morning. Thanks to everyone for joining us for this session. I am Danielle Casey. I'm the President and CEO here with the Albuquerque Regional Economic Alliance. And the fun part for me today is I'm going to be doing the least amount of talking in this session. So I'm very excited for all of the tools and resources that we're going to be sharing with all of you. Next slide, please. Excellent. This would not be possible, and I believe she is going to be joining us later in the program. So if she does, we will certainly recognize her at that time. But this program is made possible by a grant from Wafd Bank, specifically to support small and local businesses with resources and tools that can help them grow. So we're very excited to partner with Wafd on this program today. I wanted to also, of course, thank all of our everyday contributors. And everyday is really not a great word for it. They are amazing contributors. Every single one of the folks that you see listed here make our work possible, as well as many, many advocate partners as well. We do have a location on our website where you can search our full directory. But the work that Area does here as a 501c3 nonprofit would not be possible without all of these partners. Excellent. Well, I am going to just jump into a very quick intro on who Area is and what we do, and then I'm going to hand over the wonderful programming to Antonio on our team. If you are not familiar with Area, hopefully you are if you're in the region, but if you're watching this, by the way, we are recording this video so that we can post it online for anyone who can find it as a resource in the future. We serve the four-county area in the greater Albuquerque metro. The entire four-county region, Sandoval, Valencia, Torrance, and Bernalillo counties. But I'd love to add that we are on a daily basis partners with folks across the state, with other regional economic development groups, with statewide and regional chambers of commerce, and of course, the state economic development department. Our goal is primarily to bring in and help companies locate and grow in our community. And if it's not in our four-county region, certainly we want to keep them in New Mexico. But our focus in our mission is not only to bring companies and grow them, but it's to do so in a way that diversifies our economic base so that we can create a diverse and inclusive economy that's elevating the standard of living for everyone in the community. Next, please. Our organizational structure, as I just mentioned, is very important. We are the regional conduit from our state partners that handle incentives and tools and tons of resources down to our local communities. And so Area really acts as this regional partner that promotes the entire four-county market. We spend a lot of time talking to site selection consultants and folks out of state and prospecting and identifying companies so that we can bring them into the community, service their inquiry needs, and hopefully locate them in one of these many great communities within our region. And we do so in support of the great work that the New Mexico Partnership is doing to attract companies, along with the Economic Development Department's many programs. Some of the big services that we provide, I think this is really important no matter how big of a company you are. If you are a micro home-based enterprise all the way up to a 900-person operation, one of which we've attracted recently to the region. We offer all of these services to companies in the community or are exploring the community. Really deep in-depth market analysis, and that's what we're going to talk about today, how you can actually self-serve with the tools and resources we provide. We offer that site selection assistance that I mentioned. Antonio is going to show you how to find different sites and locations in the community if you're looking for a new space. And we offer this as a single point of contact in the region. We like to tell any companies looking in the market, no matter who they need to get to, we will be able to get them to that individual, that entity, and to that partner. And that really leads into the connection to key resources, especially incentive programs and workforce training tools that we will talk about in a future program in this series. And with that, it is my pleasure to turn it over to Antonio Granillo. He is our senior analyst here with the business development team at Area and a tremendous expert in all of the tools and resources that we offer. So with that, Antonio, I'm going to hand it over to you and remind anybody watching that if they do have questions or comments, to please put them in the Q&A. If they have issues seeing anything, please put that in the chat, and we'll monitor that for any questions we want to bring up at the end of the program. So it's all yours.
Thank you, Danielle, and welcome everyone. It's really great to be able to share some of the resources that we have readily available for you here on 3 of our key websites. We have 3 today that I will be walking through with you. And I like to include it just so that if you do have any follow-up questions, our email address that the business development team uses is businessdevelopment@abq.org. And you'll be able to reach out to one of our team members and we'll be able to respond to you as quickly as possible. So the first resource that I want to share with you all today is our abqsites.com platform, which is part of our larger Zoom Prospector platform through GIS planning. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that right now. And you should be seeing my web screen right now. Here we have 2 panels to show you both our properties and our map. So on the left side, you'll see a list of properties that automatically populates when you open the website. And those are essentially just visualized across the region. You can see that the boundary on that map is what was featured on one of the earlier slides, which is our 4-county region. So area works in Sandoval, Bernalillo, Valencia, and Torrance counties, which is the Greater Albuquerque metropolitan statistical area. And so you can see here on the right that we have dots that are both green and blue. So green just means that it is a site that is available, and blue means that it is a building or some sort of existing building is on a larger site. So I think one of the first things that's best to do when you come into ABQ sites is if you're looking for a property in a particular part of our region, it's helpful to narrow that down up here on the location tab. So you'll see that it automatically selects city as the geographic boundary or municipality. So this is going to include places like the city of Albuquerque, town of Bernalillo, village of Los Lunas, city of Belen, and that is going to be your most narrow view of the region. So once you click on the bar here, you'll see a pre-populated list of those municipalities. So I'm going to go ahead and select Bernalillo here. And you can see that it's only going to show me those properties that are listed in the boundaries of the town of Bernalillo. One of the important ways that we have these properties available to you all is through a strategic partnership with the Commercial Association of Realtors of New Mexico. And we're able to populate properties that are listed on their database here specific to our region. So you can see here that we have both buildings and sites. And I think what's most helpful is to look at a property that is specific to the needs of one particular business. So if we see here, one of the most valuable layers, I think, to local businesses here is this incentives layer. So you can see here if you're particularly sensitive to being within a hub zone or a new market tax credit, you can go ahead and add this layer over the map, and it will only show you sites that are within that layer. And you're able to even filter further because it can be overwhelming to see a bunch of properties when you first log on to the website. So let's say I only wanted to look at properties within an opportunity zone, a federally designated opportunity zone. So if I go ahead and select that, we can see that here in the town of Bernalillo, There are only 3 sites within that area, and you can see it's kind of this central area that runs along the main road through Bernalillo. So that's perfect. We've gone ahead and narrowed it down from over 1,000 properties to now only 3. And I think that adding those filters and those layers in right when you get to the website is really important, so that you're able to sift through properties that don't necessarily apply to you. So the property that I was looking at earlier was this commercial property that's fairly small here in the town of Bernalillo. And I think that one of the important pieces for a local business that would be looking at a property is visibility, right? So we can see that it's here off of the main drag here in the town of Bernalillo, as well as close to the train station. So you're able to see all of these aspects that might play into your selection process. And if you need help with that, the business development team here at Area is more than willing to help you in that site selection process. So we're able to go ahead and narrow that down based on a variety of factors that you share that are really important to your operation. And so once we select this property, you can see that it now opens up the details of that property here on the left page. And we can always navigate back to the full list, to the full map by clicking this back button right here. But you can see that different properties will include photos as well as documents. And I actually am going to navigate back really quick so that I can show you all the property that has documents attached to it so that you can see those flyers. Sure. Yes. So if a property has documents attached to it, you're going to see this orange button appear here at the top. And it essentially is going to include either images or PDF files that might be relevant and include additional details that might be important to your search. So this is going to open in a new tab, and it's really just a file that goes ahead and provides further details that were provided by the broker representing the property. And so again, this can be really helpful to kind of narrow down that search for you. If you need to see additional detailed content, like we can see here, this document is fairly detailed in the different types of maps that it offers. And so if you encounter a property that you're interested in seeing and it does not have these details added, again, feel free to reach out to the business development team here at Area. And we work directly with brokers in our region to be able to connect those. Kind of like what Danielle mentioned at the beginning, Area can serve as a single point of contact for all of your needs here. And so if we navigate back to the page, we can see here that, again, there are additional details as you scroll further down that might be captured in that document, as well as contact information if you would like to reach out directly to the broker or the representing entity. It will also include economic development contacts that represent that region. So as we are in Sandoval County, here in the town of Bernalillo, we have information for Sandoval Economic Alliance, as well as the Sandoval County Economic Development Department. And we work very closely with those, as well as Area's contact information, which will be visible across all of the properties. So what can get really fun, if you like looking at numbers and like looking at data, is these tabs here at the top that will show you detailed information about the community within a certain radius of this particular property. So if I click on the next tab, which is occupational data, it's going to automatically populate within a 10-mile radius of this property. What are specific occupations that are represented? And again, it populates based off of wage here. So we can see that these are median annual wages, as well as filtering down to jobs. So we can see the total number of jobs within these varied occupations, again, within that radius. Now, of course, you can always expand or narrow that. We know that as a region, transportation connections and connectivity are really important. And people often commute across municipal boundaries for work. So we know that some people from Albuquerque or Bernalillo might commute in opposite directions. So we can, of course, expand this by clicking on the number right here under next to miles. And you can go ahead and type in either a larger or a smaller number. So you can see when I deleted 10, it automatically reverts to 1 mile. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 15 miles. And it's automatically going to modify this, as well as update these. You're also able to update the numbers up here, the radius, and you can also limit it based on drive time. So if you want to know how many people within a certain number of minutes, so if you know that people really aren't going to commute more than 20 minutes to your business for work, we can go ahead and update this. And it shows based off of that road network, the access to different different shares of the workforce you'll have access to at that particular property. Now, you can also limit this by NAICS code or the industry, and we might look at changing that. But you can see here that we can look both more narrowly and I would say more accurately at specific occupations, or if you're more so interested in the industry overall, we can look at jobs within each of those industries here. And once you click on one of these high-level NAICS codes or these high-level industry codes, you can then break it down by more narrow codes. So that property that we were looking at most likely is going to be a retail commercial development. So we can look at that breakdown across more specific types of retail operations. And then we can go ahead and move over to our demographics tab. And so this one is going to tell you more specific information about, typical demographics, age, gender, as well as ethnicity or race. And what's interesting about this is it will actually forecast using the census's forecasts up to 2029. So you can see, based on historical trends, where those numbers are going to look like within the next 5 years. So if we look at race distribution here, we can see that there's only going to be a marginal change, and we can see based on the map whether where exactly those groups might be. What is also typically important to business owners is, for specific occupations, is educational attainment. So whether your operation requires all of your employees to have bachelor's degrees or some college, or just a high school diploma, this can be helpful to also narrow down where you might locate and where you might need access to that talent pool. We also break it down by labor force status here, and this is also present in the labor force tab, as well as household. So all of this data is coming directly from the census that is captured in their 5-year estimates through their community survey. So This information is really helpful if you're doing a deeper dive and looking at those properties more closely, particularly if you are struggling with retaining workforce. Again, how we have household size. It gets pretty detailed. You can see, of course, here that as a Sunbelt city, the vast majority of people drive to work. So we can see here that represents nearly 70% of total modes of transportation, right? Is people who drive alone, and that's fairly consistent across our metro. So if we go into labor force, we can see here that some of this information is going to be similar to that occupational data tab, but it allows you to see a share of each of those occupations, which might be helpful to kind of give a better grasp than just a raw number. Is okay, I know there are nearly 9,000 managers within this radius, but what does that mean in terms of the total number of workers, right? So you can see it's just over 10.5%. Again, this is just showing you that information in a broader sense. So we're looking at 2-digit SIC codes. So we use SIC and NAIC codes to determine occupation and industry respectively, so that we can capture that information more accurately and be able to compare that over time. Again, establishment types might be important. That information is broken down in the occupational data tab. So this information is pretty much breaking it down in another way if you're sensitive or interested in looking at the share. Consumer expenditures are particularly important to local businesses that are locally serving the region, and so we can look again at total expenditures for a variety of product types. We have apparel, entertainment, education, food and beverage, gifts, furnishing, shelter, household operations, personal care, utilities, reading, tobacco. It pretty much breaks it down by these different categories that again are captured through the census. And so what might be important to consider here is the first 3 tabs are really looking at the radius in terms of workers in your operation. Then we get into consumer expenditures, and that's looking more externally, how feasible is it for me to get to my client base, especially if you have a particular geographic focus where your customers are currently coming from. You might be more sensitive to this information. Now, when we look at business, this is going to look at competitors in the market within a particular industry. So if we know that we're looking at a store or a retail operation, we can go ahead and eliminate a lot of these. So we might go ahead and look at retail for home food, automobiles, things like that. So we can see that there are 9. And what's really great, so that you can see it more clearly on the map, is you're able to toggle on and off each of these establishment categories. That way it's a little easier to see. So here at the top, this button is really important for all off, so that you don't have to go in and uncheck every single one. So you've gone ahead and eliminated that. Now, if we go back down to retail, and I am very specific, and so I only want to see who my home improvement store competitor might be in the region. And we can see here that there's only one, also off of Camino del Pueblo, the main dragon in Bernalillo. And we can see here some very detailed information on complementary or competitive businesses here in the region, including sales, the number of employees, as well as a direct link to their website if they have one. And business data is updated slowly. And so I would take these and capture these as estimates. And if there are, for whatever reason, additional questions about businesses that might or might not be present, again, feel free to reach out to the business development team, and we can look a little further and deeper into that for you. So once we go over to talent, we have our talent report. So we saw in the first tab total educational attainment levels. This is actually going to break it down by these 5 broad categories for higher education or post-secondary degrees. So that's going to include certificates, associate's degrees, and above. So we can see both the number of programs as well as the universities. It's unsurprising that the top 5 institutions are local. And so, of course, we have 3 that are in our region: UNM, CNM, and Brookline, and then 2 that are further north of us in Santa Fe. You can get even more detailed if you need for your particular operation by looking at specific program types. And so if I break this down, I can go ahead and see that within the health professions and related type programs, I can go ahead and see, okay, specifically how many registered nurses were there, how many people graduated from the College of Pharmacy, and it can get very detailed. And you can see that when you move over to this tab, the radius automatically shifts to 50 miles. And that's because this information is not going to be as useful the further, the deeper you go in. You're going to see a lot of zeros the shorter you make that radius for educational attainment. And yeah, this one is only going to be looking at educational attainment. Now, if we go to the city profile, what's important about this this file, and this can also be looked at up here at Explore Communities if you're only looking at communities and not specifically at properties. You can go ahead and kind of see this snapshot breakdown. And this is actually very useful if you need to share this information as well. You can see this these 3 little dots here at the top. Once you hover over it, you're going to get a download image button, and you can go ahead and use that to export this data and share widely. You can see that we have age distribution as well as gender female. This is a lot of those demographics that we looked at earlier, as well as population growth. So you can see that the total number of residents is specifically looking at declining over the last few years, starting in 2019. Again, educational attainment. We can see here, you know, this captures all of that. Like I said, with the area that you're looking at, you're going to see here 0, and that's just because there aren't any higher educational institutions in the town of Bernalillo. Does not mean that residents, you know, don't have or haven't studied post-secondary programs. It's just that most of them are commuting either to Albuquerque or to Rio Rancho. Again, labor force number, talent, and just distribution of types of workers based on the type of occupation, broken down into 2 very broad categories of blue collar and white collar. Total number of businesses, as well as the size of those businesses based on employee count. So we can see, of course, like many communities, the vast majority of businesses are small businesses with fewer than 5 employees. Here it's just over 65%. And really under 10% is the vast majority of establishments within the town of Bernalillo. And again, this is all information that we looked at in more detail earlier, looking at expenditure as well as the share of owners versus renters within the region or within the municipality, transportation, as well as taxes. So this is also a question that we get often, is looking at the tax rate across different communities and looking at that, although this is only going to provide those state level figures. And our final tab for ABQ sites is going to look at the county profile. So this is expanding it to the entire county of Sandoval, and it breaks it down to similar numbers. And for a lot of this data that is captured at a county level, you know, a lot of demographic numbers are still captured at the county level. So I would always lean on those county figures first before we dive deeper into the municipal boundaries. And that is an overview of ABQ sites. Like I said here, oh, it looks like we have a hand raised.
Hey, Antonio. Great job. I just wanted to ask one question relative to the occupational data, the consumer expenditures, and et cetera. Are you able to export those data sheets into like an Excel that you're able to then kind of aggregate and manipulate based on your own unique, you know, kind of data cut?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. So you're able to go ahead and export this data in either a PDF or an Excel format here. And you won't always have the option to export in a spreadsheet. But for like you said, for that data that is related to occupations and demographics, you will have that option here. And that can be very useful, like you said, as we look at manipulating that and visualizing it in different ways, if you have a preference.
Awesome, thank you.
And that reminds me, here as well, you can print the entire property report through a PDF here, or print it, as well as email a link to this listing. So you have these three options here at the top. The last piece that I just want to share with you all is again this community page. And this is going to it's going to immediately take you to that summary image for each of the regions. And again, it immediately will populate total cities. But if you go ahead and just click on city here, and if you want to look at county on a larger level, you can modify that here. And then of course our region, it's only going to show one region here. You might, if you have eagle eyes, you might have seen this little line that kind of juts out of our boundary. And that's because we work very closely with the town of Edgewood as well. Even though technically Edgewood is in Santa Fe County, economically it makes sense to work closely with them as they work along the I-40 trade port corridor. So just in case you might not have noticed that, but in case you did, there it is. So we are going to go ahead and navigate over to Zoom tours, and since we're already sharing this screen, I will go ahead and just navigate there. So as part of our Zoom Prospector platform, we have the ability to create and share Zoom tours that highlight specific assets within our community. And what's great about this tool, is that it allows you to visualize proximity to each of these as well as the concentration of specific resources and expansions or project announcements. This is in this specific Zoom tour, we tend to highlight those larger announcements that have occurred across our region, as well as resources, particularly public resources that are available and attractive to local businesses as well as those looking to locate here. So if we go ahead and start this tour, we can go ahead and see that we have a lot of different assets across the region. We can, of course, see that the vast majority are, of course, concentrated in within the city of Albuquerque, but we do have growth that is occurring across the 4-county region. And you can see here that we've ordered this based on the most recent announcements that have occurred. So Ebon Solar that announced a construction in Mesa del Sol is here at the top, which you may have heard of recently, as well as Spring Oaks Capital, which occurred earlier this year. And so if I go ahead, I can either click directly on the number, which will show me information specific to that announcement, or I can go ahead and click on it here. So if I go ahead and click on it here, you'll see that it'll automatically open a street view of that site. So this is really helpful, especially if you're showing this type of information to those outside of our region who might not have been here before or aren't familiar with the landscape. This can be very helpful. You can see, of course, that out in Mesa del Sol, we have this beautiful mesa that will soon be home to Ebon Solar and their manufacturing facility. And so you can see, I will show you a built one. So here at Spring Oaks Capital, we can see that it automatically will show our street view of their existing space off of North I-25. So again, it can be very helpful to see this information visually. That's the main benefit to the Zoom tour, is to visualize kind of what this looks like on the ground. For those project announcements, we'll also include incentive-specific information that occurred within the region. So if a company received a certain economic development incentive, either through the state or through the municipality or the county, we tend to capture that information here. And I can show that here on Ebon Solar. And we also include a link to that project announcement that you can see on our website. Some of the resources that you may or may not be aware of are through the University of New Mexico's COSMIAC lab, which is near our Sunport here in Albuquerque, as well as the Air Force Research Lab, which is on Kirtland Air Force Base. We also have some developments that are kind of these larger industrial parks, like Sandia Science and Technology Park, which is actually outside of the gates in the southeastern portion of the city. Our educational institutions, of course, CNM, of course, is very active in workforce development here in our region as the largest, the institution that is largest in terms of total completions across programs. We also, of course, have our health institutions that are doing research. So specifically biomedical research at the university, as well as the Loveless Biomedical Research Facility in the southeast part of the city. Down in Valencia County, we have the Valencia Workforce Training Center. And what's really helpful about this facility is its proximity to workforce. It's literally located right behind a and it might be helpful for me to show you instead of talking about it. You can see here that it is located right behind a housing development, so easy access to workforce for training, as well as all of the industrial development that is occurring north of Highway 6 or north of Main Street here in Los Lunas, in the village of Los Lunas. So it's a very a strategic location in terms of workforce training. And we have some announcements that occurred last year as well, some of those larger announcements. One, Arcosa Wind Towers, which was further south in the city of Belen, was a huge announcement that received a lot of national coverage and visibility with the president's visit last fall. The other big development, Double Eagle on the west side of Albuquerque, is really important, and it's a strategic initiative for the city of Albuquerque to develop that land on the western side of our city. So this kind of shows you a little bit about Greater Albuquerque and those assets. And we have additional Zoom tours that look at different establishments that might be attractive if you're trying to attract workers to move to Albuquerque. And that is my attempt to segue into our live.abq.org website. I'll go home here. So on live.abq.org, and I will go through this fairly briefly, is our talent attraction website for those that are looking at coming to the market for a job. So if you're attempting to recruit workers from other larger markets or just other markets in general, this is a fantastic tool that the area team maintains to be able to bring that information that shows why someone would want to live and thrive here in Albuquerque. And we incorporate Zoom tours into this website to kind of highlight where those establishments might be, like, you know, those that are interested in breweries and coffee shops, in entertainment venues, essentially the quality of life aspects of what happens when a worker moves here. So again, we have a variety of information here, and I wanted to show here under work, we also do include our True Jobs job board, which gives you access to post jobs for free. An area maintains that platform and regularly promotes those jobs through paid social media advertising across our network. So it's a fantastic resource that requires, you know, simply posting, either a business owner or an HR manager that can provide that information. It's a fantastic tool that you can sign up for here, either here or on our direct website. And we also included a deep dive walkthrough on True Jobs earlier this year that you can find on our website. Again, we have it divided into live, work, experience, and learn. And you can see here that we have a cost of living calculator that is maintained by C2ER, that area provides to business owners in our region. So this allows you to see, you know, the if someone is earning a certain amount in one market, what does that look like here in terms of our costs? So this can be helpful to share for workers that are looking to move here. And again, this can be accessed both within live.abq as well as on our main website, abq.org. And this one is very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and see the page here on our on our main web page, we can see this table is identical. So if I put in a base salary of $65,000 after taxes, and that's how much I'm earning in San Diego, and I decide to move to Albuquerque, and for fun, let's change it. Let's change it to Denver. So let's say I'm earning $65,000 and I live in Denver and I'm moving to Albuquerque, assuming I'm going to be earning the same amount of money. Let's go ahead and calculate this. So it looks like a comparable after-tax income, meaning how much money would I need to earn to have the same, to maintain the same expenses that I was incurring in Denver. I would only have to earn $55,613, or nearly $10,000 less, to maintain the same standard of living. So this can be helpful to show, and it breaks it down by grocery, housing, and utility costs. So you can see that, interestingly, our utility costs are slightly higher here, but the savings that one can have for grocery and housing, cancels that increase in utilities. So this can be very useful, especially as you're looking at attracting people. And you can see here that we embedded our community report that you saw on ABQ site. So you can see here that it automatically starts at the entire region, at the Albuquerque MSA, the 4th County region. And you can go ahead and change that geography here, which is really helpful if you want a quicker snapshot. And again, we have all of that information down here based on different statistics. So what's really great is, if you're having trouble finding a lot of this information, we like to include this information in multiple locations, because we know that having to navigate different websites can get a little overwhelming. So being able to have these snapshots and keep spots on our website is really valuable, and we hope that that it makes sense for you. But of course, if there are any questions that you have in navigating, or even something that I would love is if you find something and say, this doesn't seem quite right, or I think this might need to be fixed, we can of course look into that, and we always love a challenge when it comes to our data. Finally, I want to go ahead and transition back to our presentation here. So we went through abqsites.com. We went through our virtual tours, our Zoom tours. We looked at live.abq.org. And so I also want to share with you all our talent profile report that really complements the live.abq.org platform. For those that are looking at moving here, there are a lot of talent attraction specific statistics and narratives that can really support the case for someone to move here to Greater Albuquerque, if you're looking to do that, as well as capturing some industry specific information in terms of costs to do business here. What does it look like on the ground when you're expanding, which is can be very challenging and daunting for a small business that is doing their first expansion. We have some case studies or examples of those operation calculations, and we can of course do specific ones that meet your operation as well as you look to expand. We went through our cost of living calculator, and I think I want to share with you all our local business interview and support information. So we have a QR code here that you can scan to visit our business expansion, business retention and expansion overview document that highlights some key information and resources that are very helpful to you. If you are considering an expansion or you're considering leaving the market or struggling when it comes to workforce, please reach out to the business development team, and we will ensure that we work directly with you to support you on either of those initiatives in our region. Especially with our public partners, we ensure that if there are any discussions regarding economic development incentives, we can be that single point of contact to each of those different avenues for it, whether it's through the state or through a local municipality or county. So again, I strongly encourage you to look into this overview that includes a wealth of resources for local businesses here. And I did not see any questions come in. I do see I do see a hand raised. So I will go ahead, and it looks like Victoria has her hand raised.
Hi, Antonio. Great presentation. Real quick, can you go back to how to access the tour, the virtual tour portion?
Yes, of course. So we create these Zoom tours on the back end through Zoom Prospector, and I believe that that your account should allow you to create a Zoom tour if you wanted to create a specific one. But these live on as a live link that we can share out on our website or within each of or like within email, within communications like that.
And Daniel, if you go to the homepage of our website, actually, right on the front homepage, there is a big button, although it's always the easiest one to miss. Right there in orange where it says, check out our online virtual Zoom tours. Not only do we have the awesome one that he demonstrated, but we've got a lot of others and would love any ideas or suggestions on more tours that we can put together. This seems to be an intern favorite project for obvious reasons, but also something that we really enjoy. So we've got everything from higher education to infrastructure, as you see, even some housing tours. And we do have a link in through to a virtual tour that we cannot claim authorship of, but it's a tour from Visit ABQ. I think the brew tour is my favorite, followed up closely by the coffee shop tour. So we can always add more, but you can grab that link right there at any time. And while I'm still on the floor, I just want to say, Antonio, this is honestly, hands down, one of the best presentations I've ever seen. You've walked through all the details very clearly and succinctly. And so just kudos and thank you for being such a master of all of this work on behalf of area and our businesses.
Thank you. Are there any other last minute questions or concerns or comments?
Right. So we are going to post this recording on our website. We are going to have a video page. We can put a link into this in our local business support page as well. And of course, if anybody does have questions offline, you start playing with these tools, reach out to Antonio. And just I'd love to give a final shout out to the rest of the area staff, especially those that you all see online, Chad Matheson and Aaron Brubaker. Anita Campbell also supports local business on the business development team. And shout out to Wafd. All right, and our next program is in December, and you can register for that on our website as well as at abq.org/events. So
thank you,
thank you, Antonio, for the great work.